This is the Concealed Carry Podcast, Season 12, Episode 6. And welcome to the Concealed Carry Podcast, part of the concealedcarry.com network, brought to you by HK. Today is Wednesday, July 16th, 2025, as of recording of this episode. And I am your host, Riley Bowman, and joined today by a special guest, honorary co-host, Robyn Sandoval of A Girl and a Gun. Hello, Robyn.
Hi, Riley. Thanks for having me. Please let any viewers know that I'm not in a dark dungeon. I don't know why my camera's so dark. I normally am not in the dark here, but.
And while you're getting that disclaimer out of the way, I'm going to also throw out the disclaimer. I apologize for some of our audio quality as well. Both Robyn and myself having some audio issues. I'm not quite sure what's going on my end. A little bit of an intermittent issue that we've been trying to troubleshoot and just aren't figuring it out. But anyway, we are here and we're getting the thing done. And we're going to talk about, well, first of all, we're going to talk about ladies and shooting. You're the, as far as I know, the big head honcho of all things women and shooting, as the founder of A Girl and a Gun, a continuously growing, fast-growing organization of women in the shooting sports, which I think is fantastic. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how guns are for everybody, how to get everybody more and more involved. Because that's our goal here. I know that's your goal, especially getting more and more women involved. So we'll jump into that here momentarily. But first, today's episode sponsored, brought to you by HK. They're our title sponsor, of course, but today they get the episode sponsor slot as well. I was just thinking today as I put on my HK CC9 pistol of how much I just enjoy carrying it, and I also enjoy shooting it. You saw it being actually shot a little bit. Those of you watching the video feed here in the intro, a little bit of a shot of me shooting it. Actually, that was from last year when it was still pretty new to me, and it still shot great then, and it shoots great now, and that's what I carry every day. So check out HK. Go to hk-usa.com to learn more and to check out their full lineup of products, and visit your local dealer to check them out. They're pretty much on the shelves just about anywhere I go. So anyway, appreciate HK's sponsorship of the podcast today. And also our secondary sponsor is Mountain Man Medical. Not only are guns and shooting for everybody, but so is having good kit, such as medical trauma kit. So head on over to mountainmanmedical.com and get stocked up with your needs for taking care of those nasty bleeds and other injuries and things that sometimes come our way. So we don't want that stuff, but unfortunately it happens, and it's good to be prepared ahead of time. In fact, Jacob and I were just looking at a kit the other day that got sent to us as part of some other thing. I don't even know if they intended to send this kit along with it, but we're evaluating it. We open it up and it looks from the outside like a trauma kit, but once you got in it, it's basically just a glorified boo-boo kit with Band-Aids and a little bit of gauze and some shears. And we're like, that's not a trauma kit. So that's the thing. A lot of people don't really know what goes into a quality kit. But that's where trusted experts, mountainmedical.com, pick up a good quality kit today to make sure you have what you need. All right, Robyn, let's jump into it. So I know you came prepared here today with some data, some metrics, which I think we'll get into. I think that stuff's really, really awesome. But before we do that, why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory for those that don't know? Tell us about A Girl and a Gun, the organization, how you got started with that, kind of what led to it, why, all of that. You can take 30 seconds or you can take 5 minutes. I think either way, the story is compelling. So lay it on us.
Well, A Girl and a Gun is the largest women's training company in the country. We have, I would say, the most credentialed, most qualified female cadre across the country. We have our instructors have a number of credentials that they have to be affiliated with A Girl and a Gun. And then they run Girls Night Out at the range and other activities nationwide. And that's really the gateway for women to come into shooting, for them to be with a caring and qualified instructor who can guide them through the way. And a lot of times having friendly women on the other side of the door can help those new shooters come into a a friendly space. Walking into a gun range can be an intimidating experience if it's a gun store or a range or an outdoor range or somewhere they've never been before. So having a friendly face on the other side, I tell ladies, just take that 10 seconds of courage to walk in the door, and the rest of us will be there right behind the door. Just get to us. It takes 10 seconds for you to get from your car through the door, and then it'll open a journey that you never knew was possible. So we have chapters around the country. At some point every day, there's a Girl in a Gun event happening somewhere in the country. And then I'm fortunate to be able to host destination and kind of specific training events on certain specific topics around the country, where we do a deep dive into specific areas of shooting. Tomorrow, I'm leaving to go host our shotgun tournament in Fort Worth, Texas. So from pistols, rifles, shotguns, self-defense, recreation, our sniper school is coming up in a couple of weeks. So pretty much, if you think it, we do it. And we love seeing these women and supporting them on their journey.
You've even organized driving school as well, right?
Yeah, we have our Drift Academy as our vehicle defense course. There's nothing like it. These guys worked with me on I created the story of what I wanted that experience to be, and they put it together. So in and around the cars, transitional spaces, working through parking lots, parking garages, dangerous places where we see a lot of bad things happen, and women are vulnerable in those spaces. Well, men are too. So having the opportunity to work around the cars with a firearm, with non-lethal, and then to get in the car and to get on the racetrack with professional instructors to learn how to navigate what happens in a rollover, what happens on different turns, what happens in off-road recovery, and all of those different experiences. Like we say with medical, you never use your firearm, but medical is something you want to have at the ready all the time. And it's the same with vehicle safety. We hope to never have to deploy a firearm, but you're in your vehicle almost every day. Let's make sure that you're safe out there and know those safety techniques as well to protect yourself and your family.
Absolutely. No, I think that's fantastic. I mean, what a comprehensive list of things you just gave us, talking about all the different areas of training that you and your instructors and your organization have done and do. As you said, somewhere across the country, pretty much every day, there's an event going on. How many chapters are you up to now?
We have about 300. We operate out of about 350 ranges. So we have some that are indoors, some are outdoors, some are in the middle of nowhere, and some have special amenities, which is why we go there. But really, it's in most areas of the country. We have members in all 50 states.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any international members? Is that a thing?
We have a Guam chapter, although they had some storms last year that kind of put their range and a lot of their infrastructure out of play. But we do have members in Guam. We do have some international members. There's a couple in Canada and the UK and Argentina and South Africa, where we have a lot of IDPA shooters. So a lot of people are looking for us for that information to be better competitors if they are IPSC shooters, not IDPA, but IPSC. Internationally. So, getting those competition techniques, we're a good place for them to come as well.
That's awesome. I think that's fantastic. So it's been really cool to see the growth of your organization. I mean, and I'll just say, like, I've seen even that just in my limited view of attending or teaching at your national conference, where I think like one year I remember it was like 500 or some odd, attendees. And then like the next year is like 600. And like the next year is like, it just seems like every year you like somehow find the ability to add like another 100 women or something. I might be misremembering that, but I just remember thinking like, wow. And then, learning that tickets for your national conference sell out in like just practically minutes, it seems. So like, that's just really, really cool and exciting and inspirational actually to see. So
yeah, last year was our biggest conference. It was 750 students. It sold out in 30 minutes. It's incredible. I'm not going to go larger than 750 just because I want the experience to be so valuable. We limit live fire classes to 16 students on the line. And with 700 students, that means that I'm rotating people through a lot of different classes, a lot of different non-fire and dry fire opportunities as well. But just making sure that everybody has that live fire time and has that one-on-one time with instructors. I don't want the classes to be too large, and I don't want to dilute anyone's experience. So it is a coveted ticket to get one. It sold out in 30 minutes. I'm expecting it to sell out very quickly again. We're limiting it to 750. So But it's really exciting. Our conference is a different atmosphere. I think a lot of our guy instructors always kind of laugh that we start the morning with like a big pep rally dance party and then go out to the range. And it's just 750 women who are committed to training and learning, and they travel across the country and invest in their time and invest in their gear and invest in themselves. And there's nothing more inspiring than watching them accomplish all these goals and dreams and getting further along in their journey than they were the year before. But if there's not room for everyone at conference, we do have a lot of other events happening throughout the year. So I'm lucky that I get to see a lot of people there as well.
Absolutely. That's great. So one thing that you said that, just kind of, I guess, hit me this time. It was a small, simple little thing, but you just talked about how, if you're looking to go to the range for the first time or just get into guns for the first time, and like, hey, just get through the door, put on a brave face, get through the door, and we'll be right there, supporting you and cheering you on, and like, there to help you out. And I was like, okay, that's so true, that it can take a lot, especially when something is totally new and foreign, scary even to some people, to take that brave step and to go. And like a lot of times us dudes don't, want to talk about or admit that something's scary for us. But I know there's things that are scary even for us dudes. I'll just say that one of the reasons I didn't go and shoot a competition match for the first time for years was because I was like, I just didn't know what I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And whether I would have described that as being scared or not, at the very least, there was some anxiety there of like, I don't know where I'm going exactly. I don't know what I'm doing exactly. I don't even know if I have the right gear. I don't know who's going to be there. I think I'm a good shooter, but I don't want to be judged. I don't want to fail. It's just all this stuff, right? And you're thinking about that for me for years of, boy, I don't know. And then finally I went and did my first match, and, you find out, you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. At least it could be, I suppose. We definitely don't want it to be.
No, but when you show up, you're beating everyone that didn't have the guts to do it. So even the people who just show up are ahead of the game. But you're right. And we see that in areas of our lives that we don't even think about it, like going to a new restaurant, especially if it's a different type of cuisine, a different ethnicity, then you would just be comfortable walking in the door. Like a lot of times you want a friend to go with you. Like, I don't know about Ethiopian food. Will you go with me? Or I don't know the Indian menu. Will you go with me? So a lot of times we see that in everyday life. It's not necessarily just firearms. Women, people in general just don't want to look dumb. They don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to be out of their element. And so anytime you can just have a friend go with you to try new things, it doesn't even have to be something as serious as self-defense. It could literally just be a different type of food, but it can be very intimidating, not wanting to walk in there, not know the process of the restaurant. Do you sit? Do you go through a line? Like just in everyday life, a lot of people will go to the same places and go to the same stores and just do the same routine because it's comfortable and familiar. And that's just part of being human. But the great thing that A Girl in a Gun does is we have so many videos and we have so many pictures, and people can kind of imagine what's on the other side to make it a little less scary. And we have so many videos and articles that help as well. And a lot of like frequently asked questions. What do I wear? Where do I go? So that they kind of have a game plan when they walk in the door. And that helps too. And not just for women, for guys too, just understanding, like, you can't just walk in with a gun in your hand, have it in a bag, get it out of your car, bring it in, say, I'd like to go to the range, just understanding the language of that, and just the etiquette of that can really be reassuring. Mm-hmm. And, we've been doing this 14 years now, a really long time. And so there's a lot of different content out there that shows, kind of what to expect behind the door. So a lot of times that can help ease people's minds as well. But just being supported in the journey, especially particularly related to firearms. In 2014, NSSF did a study, and they used A Girl in a Gun as the litmus test. We were kind of the control group for women's purchasing and training. And they compared the A Girl in a Gun community to all women in general in the firearms industry. And what they found was that with a Girl in a Gun chapter at a range, at a retail center or host range, that women were more likely to purchase guns there at the gun counter, that it wasn't a transactional sale, just a one and done. They knew that they would be supported with training after the firearm purchase. So that closed the sale 100% of the time. So when training is offered in connection with that firearm, then you know that you're not alone in purchasing it. There's going to be somebody who's qualified and caring to guide you that next step to make sure that you can use it safely and proficiently. And so just knowing that that path is laid out for you and that community is there for you, it makes it a lot less intimidating.
Yeah. That's really fascinating what you just shared about. I mean, it makes sense to me just hearing it, but the fact that you have some data backing it up, that's got to be a pretty good sales pitch, I would say, for particularly a range that has a retail center as part of it that does gun sales. Like, hey, like you want to have a chapter at your range because we're going to sell guns for you, basically.
You would think so, Riley, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Changing hearts and minds is really hard. And so you wouldn't believe the objections and obstacles that we have to overcome to have chapters in different places. Yeah. Everything from, when it's girls' night out, the parking lot's too full. And so, that's a problem.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, right? That's my response too. Or, I know that there's, 30 women who have all paid full range fees to be in here, but now there's not any room for real customers to come in.
For real customers?
Yeah.
Ooh.
These are conversations I have every week across the country, trying to make it less of an outreach mission and more of a financial decision for these ranges, to understand that, yes, we want women to come in. We want it to be approachable. We want women and families to protect themselves. But at the end of the day, it just makes good business sense too.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating to me. And it's fascinating because I'm probably more of a data-driven kind of person than maybe some people are. I know how it can be for some of those smaller operations, stores, ranges, whatnot. And in some cases they've been doing things the same way for decades. And they like you were just talking about, like they're comfortable with what they do, with what they know. Like, we've been doing this for however long. This is the way we do things, and like it seems to work. And so like it's scary to then change something up, as kind of what I'm hearing based on what you just shared there. But at the same time, like I think that every range or store probably would like to still sell more, or else why are we in business?
You would think so. You would think so. It's very complex though when you push them out of their comfort zone.
Yeah. I also suspect, I mean, I describe it as kind of the old guard. There's just sort of there's still this mentality, I think, in a lot of parts of the industry of, we got to protect the status quo, whether the people are intentionally thinking of it like that or not, it's beside the point. But just, again, just sort of like, this is the way it's always been, and this is the way we like it, and we got to keep it that way. And heaven forbid we fill that parking lot up.
Right. I think that a lot of times, though, that old guard is very protective because they've seen their rights and friends chipped away at. Yeah. And so they have this like hard line in the sand, and letting people in can be very scary. Letting, trying to find any kind of middle ground for a new community to broaden the tent, as Akil and Tiffany talk about. But just to make a more diverse clientele for them can be very intimidating. Again, it's just different. Yeah. And so while you look at dollars and cents, it makes really great sense. But if you look at the history of being afraid of outsiders coming in and getting more middle ground than we were comfortable with and chipping away at the things that we hold sacred, I understand the wall there. And I let them know that we're 100% on their side and all the benefits of supporting a women's group like ours.
Yeah. Besides the data, are there any anecdotal kind of success stories that you are able to share? Like, just, it could be anything, just a story or two or three here and there of various women or chapters or stores or ranges that, you're like, hey, this is notable, and maybe you'd like to highlight.
Oh gosh, there's so many stories, hundreds of stories of women who have reached out and said that a girl in a gun has changed their lives. And, I always remind them that a girl in a gun didn't change your life. You changed it. We just gave you the pathway and the support along the way. But there's just so many stories. I've seen women who, we have leaders now, chapter leaders that are instructors that are teaching private lessons and thriving in their personal instructor business that 5 years ago one of them had never left her county ever. Her entire life. She's 50, had never left her county, didn't know there was a bigger world out there. And now she comes to conference, she comes to drift, she comes to all of our events. She's in it to win it, and is recognized that, getting past, a lot of times we hold ourselves back. And now I see her living her best life and traveling and having new memories and inspiring others around her to grow. It's just a lot of times women, especially who want to focus on their families, and it's really hard for them to shine. It's really hard for them to give themselves permission to kind of live bigger and greater. And I'm just so fortunate I get to see that all the time. There was one woman who came to an event where we had some shotgun. It was tactical shotgun. It was kind of an intro to 3-gun, but we focused on shotgun. And she had never shot a shotgun before. And so she found she was actually pretty good at it. And she was actually really good at it. And she went home, and she was the Girl Scout troop for her daughters. And she was going through a really horrible divorce, and it was really low self-esteem. And she took her whole Girl Scout troop bowling. And she said that she had never gotten up and bowled before. She let the girls do it. She's kind of stayed in the shadows. And she said, but you know what? I learned that day I was a pretty good bowler too. Mm-hmm. She got up there, and she's living her life and trying new things, and not afraid of failing and not afraid of looking silly, just tired of sitting on the sidelines. And I see that time after time. And what's so inspiring about that is not only did she change her life and enhance her life and live better and live more, but she just inspired this whole generation of little girls looking at her to not sit in the shadows either, that they don't need to worry about what they're wearing or if they're good at something, that just to expect you're going to be terrible. It's your first time and it's okay, Yeah. But that price of entry is embarrassment sometimes, to get out there and shoot your first match when you think in your mind you're going so blazing fast, but you're actually really, really slow. It's just, that's the cost of entry, is being willing to just try it.
That still happens even to me, where I'll review a match video and I'm like, man, why am I still so slow?
Every time I'll look at the standings and be like, wow, I thought I was way faster than him.
Yep. That's really cool. I appreciate you sharing that, that there's lives being changed by, getting involved in doing what we're here to talk about today. I have certainly been I want to call it a partaker of the blessings of what you're describing, because there's a significant positive energy that I've witnessed at your events. By that, I mean attending the national conference, teaching there a couple of times. And first of all, there's always just a bunch of smiling faces. Like there's never a frown that I can recall. And everyone is so excited to learn, like so excited to be there. And I know that for some instructors too, this is, if they're exposed to that for the first time, especially, and maybe they come from a background in military and law enforcement training. Well, I don't have the heaviest background in law enforcement training. I've done a little bit of that in my past, and you're used to being in a room or on a range with, guys where this is their job, guys and gals, but a lot of guys mostly, obviously. And, and they're just told, hey, you got to go to this training course. Okay. And maybe don't want to be there. They'd rather be at home, fishing or, going camping, or they'd even rather just be on the job, chasing bad guys rather than being in yet another training course. And so it's just so refreshing to be surrounded by students that really, really, really want to be there and want whatever it is that you can deliver. And that's a really cool thing. And so it's very apparent to me that everything you're describing is, it's not just talk. It's not, it's really, you're changing lives and enriching lives. And that exudes in the people, that like you see it. So I'm just, I guess, testifying to that myself.
I'm grateful that you would notice that, because that is all on purpose. I always charge our instructors, with having really high standards of their own firearms handling, their teaching, their being able to walk the walk and talk the talk. They have to be able to articulate and speak in front of a crowd and be able to teach, be competent educators, as well as being really good shooters. We require them to shoot on camera once every 2 years to recertify. And so we want to make sure that they can really walk the walk and talk the talk. Another thing, though, in addition to all of that, is I charge them with being culture creators. I say that you are the holder of our culture. And so by showing that ever student mindset, to not just think you know it all, but to always be open to learning new things and to going to additional training. And once you think you know pistols, let's move on to rifles. When you think you know rifles, let's move on to shotguns. And so to not be stagnant in their own learning journey. And our girls really, from the top down, emulate that. I go to training. I'm always trying to learn new things. And I really hold them to the same standards. I'm not going to ask them to do anything that I don't do myself. I want to learn all of it. And I want to be a part of that journey with them as well. So being a holder of that culture of encouragement, of welcoming, of high standards, all of that kind of rolls in together. And before conference, we do send out emails to remind our ladies to be active learners, to be professional students, to take notes, to listen to what the instructors are saying, and especially at our conference, because we have some, like, you giving advice on shooting a stage and different props and different, how to tackle an array from behind a barrier might be very different than what one of the military guys or one of our law enforcement friends might be teaching on a different stage in a different context. And so being open to different instructors have different backgrounds. They have different ways of saying the same material. A lot of us kind of reinforce the same techniques, but we all have our own kind of flavor of it. And so to be open to those different discussions and those different backgrounds, and to be willing to try new things, and all of that kind of comes with the culture.
I appreciate you touching on that. Culture is key. And by that, a local culture, but also even a broader, more, national level culture, whatever that might be. But just in the fact that, it all starts with something local. And when we look at, if you want to even just have a conversation about the protection of our rights as Americans to own, to possess, to carry, to use firearms in whatever capacity or context we desire, because that's how the right ought to be enshrined, right? Whether it's self-defense or just for pure enjoyment, like that culture, we've seen a lot of evolution throughout our American country history of firearm ownership and culture, and even more recently that's changed somewhat. I think it's constantly evolving. We are all the holders of that as well, I guess is where I'm going with my thought here. And I want to see that continue to expand. And what you're talking about, like, that's really cool that's something that you're making sure that your leaders of your chapters, your instructors, that they understand that they are putting that out there, that they are, also examples, I guess, of that culture. It's kind of like what I relate it to, Robyn, is, and you've probably experienced this too. I've shot a lot of different matches at a lot of different places around the country. I've had that opportunity, big matches, small matches. And so, I've been to clubs or to matches where the culture was very different. And by that, I'm used to the match that I've shot the most here locally. I've shot a number of them here in the area in Colorado here, but the one I've shot the most, they're good folks. They work hard. Everybody kind of shares the load, as far as getting matches set up, running those matches, tearing those matches down, welcoming in new shooters, making sure that they're taken care of. One of our local matches run by Charlie Perez, a USPSA Grandmaster. Charlie's a good friend of mine. Charlie does a fantastic job of welcoming new people in, and then making sure that those new folks are paired up on squads with other experienced, but not just experienced, because you could have experienced competitors that are just total jerks, or all they care about is themselves, but there's also those shooters that they're good and they'll show you the way, like as far as how to not only how to shoot a stage, but also like, here, let me take a little extra time and kind of walk you through this together, so you can kind of see what I see, and not only from like I'm not going to take a brand new shooter and be like, this is the stage plan you should use, right? Necessarily. It might be that plan, but it might not be, because I might do something that would get a newer shooter in trouble if they're not careful. So you got to have shooters like that are experienced and prepare and guide, and that culture doesn't always exist. I've been to matches where somebody new shows up. It's like, okay, cool, new guy. All right, good luck.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times. I think that's the way it is, unfortunately, most places. So, but, that is another aspect of a Girl and a Gun that we really focus on, is making sure that they don't stay insular. Like, we love them coming to a Girl and a Gun events, but now's your chance to go to your local club match or a major, or like, we'll teach you those skills and we'll bring you in and make sure that you grow some confidence, but then we don't keep you here. The whole idea is for you to like fly the nest and like be an active participant in other matches. That's really the goal, is for them to go back home and support their local club match, because that's when it makes, and hopefully infuse some of our culture into that, because you're absolutely right. And that's why we have Three Gun University. We host the only all ladies three gun match in the country, and we have Three Gun University, so ladies can come learn the sport of three gun, and then they can shoot the match. And so we have squad moms and we have squad pros. So the moms are the ones to make sure you have all your gear and you're ready, you're next in line, and everyone's resetting. And then the pros are the ones that coach you on suggestions of a stage plan to help you, because a lot of girls, when they're new, they just don't even know where to start. Right. So each squad has a mom and a pro, and they get you through that match. And it is a completely different culture. Pros do not come to our match to win it. And even though their sponsors know they could, they come to our match to be ambassadors of the sport, to share the sport they love, to encourage others to come in. And honestly, that's a better brand ambassador than winning, because now all those newbies that didn't have their own gear, that just borrowed your gear, are going to go and purchase that because it worked for them. They had some coaching with it. And now that's a far better and more valuable brand ambassador. But a lot of times, some cultures of people only want to see them at the top of the leaderboard, which, is usually the case also, but not the priority of matches like ours.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mentioned we'd dive in a little more into some metrics. Why don't we do that now? Kind of shift gears a little bit. What are some of the interesting data points that you think is worth sharing? Like people might find interest in, like, hey, you probably didn't know this, for instance.
Well, we talked about how, the goal is for more people to come in. So is that, and I always differentiate between, is that becoming a gun owner and purchasing a firearm, or is that about going to the range and training with that firearm? And what is that bridge between them? How do we get someone who purchased the gun to actually get out there to the range and train? And what is the next step for them to join an organization like mine, where they train a lot, where these ladies are training at home on the regular 2-3 times a month, and then also traveling to different events and matches and other things too. So it's really that kind of more enthusiast level. So what does that journey look like, and how can we encourage more people to really be an active participant in that journey? So over the past several years, the data was more pandemic focused. People were more afraid about legislative bans during the previous administration. They were more worried about violence, hate crimes, defunding of the police, those kinds of issues. We saw a lot of gun owners coming to us wanting training and confidence and proficiency because of those issues. And that has really waned to the other side. Now we're seeing a lot more women come just because they didn't know they could. And I love that. We're finally getting the word out after 14 years that you don't have to be a guy. You don't have to be in law enforcement. You don't have to be in the military to actually go to the range and train. So more and more women are coming in just because in our member polling, they're saying, I didn't know I could. And I was encouraged by a family member or friend to go and take some training. And so I think that still means that the rest of us have a lot of work to do. If we want these ladies to train, if we want more diversity in our firearms communities, we need to let them know that they're welcome, that there's a place for them. And just getting the word out on that is showing that the metrics have skewed to that people are a little less driven by fear and more driven by opportunity now, which is very positive, and also still shows that we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I was thinking about how during like 2020, 2021, thereabouts, that kind of pandemic, period. Wasn't the stat something like 7 or 8, or maybe it was 15? Anyway, it's been a few years since I've looked over those numbers, but it was millions of first-time new gun owners that came into the fold, so to speak. And I think there was a lot of excitement driven around that, rightfully so. I mean, we're always excited to see new gun owners. But there was a little bit of trepidation as well, including from some more experienced industry folks, because it's like, okay, are those people really going to, truly come into the fold, or are they just going to buy that gun and stash it somewhere, in the closet, and, forget about it, move on? Like, it just, made them feel better about whatever thing they were worried about at that particular point in time. And so they bought the thing and then they moved on in life. And I do think that probably what the world is showing now, that there is a lot of that did occur. That was, okay, yep, bought the gun. All right, cool. I got it. Now, they just continue on with life. I'm curious if you've seen some correlating data, some influx as well on the ladies' side, and coming into a girl and a gun, kind of in around and following that time period as well. That I mean, I know we're not going to capture everybody, but I am hopeful that there were some of these ladies coming into shooting that maybe initially were like, yeah, I need to get a gun and I'm worried about this or that. And then they see that, wait, there is this great opportunity in this great organization and there's more there for me. I mean, what are your thoughts on, if anything I just said, makes sense?
Well, there's two parts of that. One is everybody wants a gun in their safe just to feel like it's this magic talisman around their home.
Yeah.
But then when something goes wrong, like the floods here in Texas, or hurricanes that happen, or any kind of natural disaster, that's when people realize how vulnerable their infrastructure is, and their 911 systems become overburdened, and they realize they're a little more isolated, a little more on their own than they thought, and they need to start having at least some kind of preparedness, whether it's medical supplies, food, firearm, ammo, and some skills to use all of those things. So, I mean, as much as it is sad, sometimes those situations do give us a soapbox to invite people. When they realize their vulnerability, that's a time where we can put an olive branch to say, let us help you get some confidence. When you feel that vulnerability, there's options for you, and there's ways that you can stand on that and grow confident. But also, back in the day, we used to see a lot more women who were led to firearms by men in their lives. We would see their fathers. They would go shooting with their fathers, their husbands. It was a couples activity. Many of the women were brought in because their husband had been, or their boyfriend at the time was a shooter, and she would go along. And so we saw that a lot more back in the, 2011, 2015, 2019 era. Now we're seeing a lot more women who are the first shooters in their home. They're the ones wanting to learn firearms. They're the ones hearing about other people and seeing videos and seeing other things on social media and hearing other stories. And now they're wanting to have a firearm and learn about it. And now they're bringing the men of their life to the range. So it's kind of been a flip over the past 10 years. We've really seen that spur more, really the past 5 years, strongly skewed in that data direction. But we are making headway. Just last week, the Seattle Times wrote a positive gun story. I would never have thought I'd see that out of the Pacific Northwest. It is strongly anti-gun. Yeah. But the Seattle Times actually featured 2 of our Girl in the Gun chapters. And one of the questions they posed was, why do you stay in this? Like, okay, you got the gun. Okay, you learned gun safety. Okay, you got it. You're safe now. You got it. Why do you keep going? And all of the women answered, for the community, that it's so much fun, and it's so much more, and it's so much greater than I ever expected. And the Seattle Times reported that. So there is hope for us that we can get that word out and let people know that it's not just a checkbox. Got it? Check. Learn gun safety. I know the 4 rules. Check. So now they realize that there's a whole journey ahead of them. And I mean, that's one thing that a Girl in the Gun has really thrived at, is showing that journey, showing that kind of roadmap of what you've learned, what you still have yet to learn, and what can be achieved along the way. and giving them those opportunities to learn it. So we have lots of different programs that do that. We have our targets that allow different kinds of opportunity for growth. We make sure that, unlike a lot of women's organizations that stay in that new shooter space, a Girl in the Gun is really able to push people down the road. And if you want to learn expert level, we'll, if you can define expert level, we'll get you there. We'll make sure that your fundamentals are squared and you're ready to rock and roll, whether it's with a pistol, rifle, shotgun, for defense, for competition, for any other kind of purpose. So, lawful purpose, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if whatever your goals are, we can help you achieve them. And a lot of organizations really stay in that, new shooter. Oh, you're new here. That's welcoming you. And we'll start with the 4 rules. Well, you can only hear that so many times before you're ready to jump out there. So that is one place where a Girl in the Gun excels, is with quality instruction that can get you to that next level.
That's awesome. I had to go look up that Seattle Times article, and I'll have to read through that after we're done here, because that looks really cool. This looks, like you said,
I was really surprised to see something positive about guns come out of the Pacific Northwest. So that leaves me hope for the rest of us. For Colorado, let's keep a good thought for your neck of the woods.
Yeah. Even just looking at the images of the article, I mean, they're good, positive images. So good stuff. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. We need more of that. We need a lot more of that. There's some positive signs of as far as what's going on, more on the judicial level of things, for the Second Amendment in this country. And I hope that continues, because it hopefully will just make things even easier and open up more doors and more opportunities for Americans everywhere. But that's only going to be able to continue if we have good folks and good ladies also getting involved and seeing, not just, that's the thing, right? Like, there's a lot of talk and a lot of debate about what the meaning of the Second Amendment is, and what the purpose of that amendment is and was, and what was intended. But at the very least, like, if someone just wants to have a gun for fun, like positive fun and community, and going to events and shooting and competing, like, that should be completely allowed and acceptable, and to be made to feel acceptable in a world where so often guns are, painted in this very negative light, in the media, and all over. So you ladies are doing great work, and that's awesome.
Well, the Second Amendment doesn't mention firearms. It says the right to keep and bear arms. So, and I think all of us can agree that we really just want the fundamental right to protect ourselves, to protect our families and our bodies, and those that we love. And so, just having the options is really what, as Americans, we want, to be able to say, this is what I choose and how I choose to protect my family. This is what I've decided is right for my family, and right and just. And I think we can all agree in the right of protection. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well said. You mentioned that it used to be that a lot of ladies would come into a Girl in a Gun, potentially being led there eventually because of their husbands or significant others kind of, encouraging that or bringing them along to the range and whatnot. And that's sort of flip-flop. That's fascinating to me. That doesn't surprise me necessarily. I think I've seen some examples of that even myself. What do you see also, like, along with seeing more ladies coming into the shooting world, there's been minorities as well, just in general, that seem to have increased in this endeavor. And so what kind of insights do you have to share there?
It's the same thing, just seeing people who look like you on the other side of the door and letting everyone know that it's okay for them to be there, that they're welcome to be there, and they're not going to be out of place, and they're not going to be, judged or criticized, that they're going to be supported in this journey, and just making sure that that environment is welcoming. So, and I think it's not just the same for women, for non-traditional gun owners, as they call different ethnic groups, but also millennials, and also people from states like yours. We have a whole generation of Coloradans and Californians and Marylanders who have never touched a gun because it was been legislated out for so long. So we have a whole generation now. We have all these baby cops coming in that have never touched a firearm, and they need the same welcoming atmosphere to show them, here are the fundamentals, here's how you can become proficient, here's how you can become confident. And it's the same for any, it's that all of that group that is kind of just never identified that this is something I can do, this isn't for me. Now as they start thinking, well, maybe it is for me, there's a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah. I'm going to shift gears again on you a little bit and turn this into, we'll call it action items for the future. And by that, I'm going to give you some different, we'll call them avatars, and what you would suggest to those different categories of people to, if it's important to them, like it's important to you and I, to encourage women and all people to do more, to get involved, to take that next step or that new step, whatever it is, to continue to grow the larger community, or to grow your own little, I shouldn't say little, but in your little slice of the pie, your little world of a girl and a gun, which is not that little anymore. But we recognize that there are millions and millions and millions of gun owners, and not all the lady gun owners are members of a girl and a gun yet. And not all of the other gun owners are, actively participating in shooting sports or even going to the range all that often. So I'm going to give you some different, like I said, like avatars, and I'm going to ask for your recommendations on what those people can do to continue to grow what's important to us. So first up, I think this is probably the easier one to answer, perhaps. We've kind of already talked about this, I think, but you got, Rebecca. Let's say that's the avatar's name here. Rebecca's never touched a gun in her life, didn't grow up in a gun-owning household, has never had anything to do with it, but for whatever reason, whether it was, something happened to her, or she just is surfing YouTube one day and comes across a video of some women shooting guns, and she's like, wow, that's interesting. I've never thought about that before. Maybe I'll do that. So Rebecca is first timer, never done anything with a gun, but doesn't know where to get started. What would you suggest to her?
Her first step would be agirlandagun.org, and she would click find a chapter, and she would find a local instructor near her. And then she can learn about events that are available to her, private lessons, events that the range has coming up, different opportunities, and also some clinics she can go to where you try before you buy. Because we all know that having some instruction, getting some proficiency, and then trying a bunch of different firearms helps you find the one that fits your hand and fits your needs better. Often our guys behind the gun counter are well-intentioned, but they're not instructors, and they often can't coach somebody to find the firearm that fits their needs and their hands, really. And so going with a certified instructor that can kind of coach you on that journey would be the best step, first step for her.
Very cool. Very cool. Just for Rebecca's sake, what does a typical chapter meeting or get together look like? Like kind of from just a rough outline of from beginning to end, you're a brand new first timer showing up. What can they expect to find in terms of the experience they're gonna find there?
Well, she'll walk in the door and she'll go to where they're meeting, whether it's on the range or whether in a classroom. It depends on the facility and the amenities there. Sometimes we meet in the parking lot. It really depends on what that range has to offer. But they'll have a safety brief. So the lead instructor, our facilitator, will welcome everyone, identify anybody who's new, kind of ask them generally what their firearm experience is. And then they'll go over the 4 rules of gun safety. They'll talk about different safety parameters regarding that facility and any specific needs and reminders about working from firearms at that venue. And then they'll go out to the range. And usually ladies will have a different topic or a different target or a different thing that they're working on. For example, we have our pistol marksmanship program. So a lot of ladies are progressing through that. It's self-paced, so everyone's at a different level, and we're just working confidently through that. But yeah, so we send targets downrange, and if she's new to that experience, she'll have an RSO instructor with her. So there'll be a kind of an assistant instructor that's kind of coaching her a little bit. if it's possible, if we have the staff for that. If not, she might stand back and watch a little bit until our instructor can spend time with her one-on-one. And then she'll be encouraged to get lessons, classes. That's really where the learning happens, is to go to a class that the range has coming up or that our chapter has coming up, or to go to a private lesson with that instructor and really learn hands-on, one-on-one with that personalized attention. And then she can come back to Girls Night Out now with some confidence and skills and practice what she learned. And then she'll be able to go to the next class and learn some new things and come back to Girls Night Out and learn and practice what she learned. And that's really where you see progress, is as you progress through these marksmanship programs, as you work different drills and skills that we offer at our events. Our events are designed to be supervised practice. We really want learning to happen in a classroom environment or in an instructor one-on-one environment. And then the group learning is really for reinforcing what you've learned. That's kind of how a Girl and a Gun operates. And then we have clinics and classes that can supplement that based on what you want to learn. If you want to have a first aid clinic or a gun cleaning clinic or safe storage or staging clinics, like we have different topics that you can learn about. But those are a little bit different. The heartbeat of our organization is the Girls Night Out, which is supervised practice. It's getting on the gun and practicing those skills so that you're sending rounds down range and you're actually being able to chart improvement.
That's awesome. Thank you for walking us through that experience. Next up, we have Judy, who is already experienced in shooting. Maybe even Judy is an NRA basic pistol instructor or something of that sort, but she's wanting to do more, and she's maybe learned or heard of a Girl and a Gun, but doesn't maybe know exactly what that looks like. Maybe there's not a chapter super close to her, but she's interested in learning more and potentially starting her own chapter. How would Judy, what would be the next steps that you'd recommend for her?
Well, the same. Go to agirlandagun.org and join our national e-chapter. So we have a virtual chapter where she has access to monthly Girls Night Outs virtually. I actually live stream the Girls Night Outs a couple times a month. And so Tatiana Whitlock is our director of training. She does a pistol skill virtual GNO each month. And so there's a lot of skills that you can learn virtually, just making community virtually. You'll be able to recognize lots of girls so that when you do show up at National Conference, or when you do come to Drift Academy or Sniper School or our Glock Getaways or our Upland Adventure or all the other things that we offer, you'll feel like you're already in it to win it, that you have a community there to support you. And a lot of times as instructors, as skilled as they are in their local community, they might not have access to 2003 yards to learn long range precision rifles. They may not have access to our Clays extravaganza, the sporting Clays courses that we do. So just because they know it and they might have a deep knowledge in pistol doesn't mean that they have ever shot 3-gun. So come to 3-Gun University. So by being a e-chapter member, it allows you to participate and then kind of plug into those additional opportunities to learn more about our culture and who we are. And then usually that's when she goes home and she reaches out to us about starting a chapter.
Cool. Awesome. Next up, we got Tom. Tom is married to Marilyn. And so Tom's retired military, and so he's spent a good amount of his life around firearms and weapons of different types. And his wife she's just at a point where she's kind of familiar, but maybe just hasn't had the right direction or whatever, or the desire to get involved. But Tom's always wanted his wife to get more involved. What do you think for a husband that's looking to guide his wife down a more firearms related path? What do you think Tom could do to support his wife a little bit better?
I think the most important thing is for Tom to ask questions. Is she interested in being a participant? Or if you wanted to talk about certain natural disasters or things that have come up to her, if she's been personally affected by watching the floods and seeing how things have affected those families there, maybe that's a good time for Tom to say, what is our home emergency plan? And are you a participant in that? Are you expecting me to do all the work? And if I can't do all the work, if I'm incapacitated or if I'm handling something different, do you have the skills and confidence to get work done if it needs to? So what is your role in that? And if she's not comfortable with a firearm, then maybe she has a different role. Maybe her role is supporting him. If she's not comfortable with lethal force, what is her plan and what is her strategy for being safe? And a lot of times, once you ask those questions and she starts thinking about what is her comfort zone, what is the end goal? If we need lethal force, someone's got to be there to deliver it. If he can't, can she? And that sometimes can take a year-long conversation. Sometimes it's not just a one-time 5-minute conversation, but as you plant those seeds and ask her, what is her participation in that? And is she comfortable with that? And, I tell ladies, if a baseball bat is your plan, I will make you the best I can with a baseball bat. And we'll go through all the drills and you'll realize why that's not really a great option, but we'll start with it. Because I'm not going to, you're going to have to come to that conclusion on your own that there's, okay, so you did that. Now I do this. Yours love, you got nothing. So we walk them through those things, because a lot of times people have this made up scenario of what self-defense looks like. I'm going to be in a dark alley and he's going to come from my right. And, and you're like, okay, well, don't go to the dark alley. Now what's your plan? When you're in Sunday service, like so a lot of times they just can't think outside of that comfort zone or that, dark make-believe world they've made. So getting her to actually ask questions, and for him to ask those questions, what is your role in our plan? Do we have a plan? Will that make you feel more comfortable if something like this, the devastating floods or a hurricane or a fire, if something happened to us, would that make you feel more comfortable that we're prepared for that? And a lot of times women just having those conversations will start coming to their own conclusions that they want to be a more active participant, that they want to gain more confidence. And then she'll be willing to go to Girls Night Out and at least learn about it, at least maybe to be his backup. And then I guarantee in a year, she's going to be out shooting him and she'll be plan A and he'll be plan B. But a lot of times you just have to let her kind of go at her own pace and learn. Because I was that girl too. I did not want a firearm in our home at all. It was not happening. And I saw the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. And I saw a woman hand her children to strangers getting on a bus to Houston. And she said, please take my children. I'll try to find you in a few days. And I said, there is no way I'm handing my children to strangers. What do I need to do? And that's when I became the journey of what is my plan and how can I protect my family? And what am I willing to learn to do that? And so everyone kind of has to come at their own urging, but it's not necessarily a 5-minute conversation. It can take a long time, but having a supportive community of women where she can come and ask those questions and be with people who felt the same way. And I'll say, I know how you feel. I felt the same way. And what I found is now I'm way more prepared and way more confident. And, it's a completely different life. Yeah. So a lot of times having those conversations will be of greater benefit.
Excellent. Final one. We've got Richard, who owns a gun range and retail store. And, maybe he's seen a few ladies come into his store and range and use it, but he knows nothing about helping them, supporting them. He may not even admit it to himself, but he knows that, hey, we're in a little bit of a down market right now for gun sales, and I'd love to sell more guns. So what would you say to Richard, who is thinking about how, it seems like there's an opportunity there, but maybe he doesn't know how to get started in encouraging something like a Girl and a Gun chapter to start at his range, or maybe he's got some reservations about that. So in other words, this is your opportunity, Robyn, to make a quote unquote sales pitch to a prospective gun range operator about, hey, why you want to have a Girl and a Gun chapter at your range.
Well, I appreciate that. And a lot of times guys don't know where to go, and range owners don't know where to go. And a lot of times it's a family business. And so it's deeply personal, and it's hard for them to let outside instructors in. And so that can be a challenge as well. And so we have a program that's designed for any kind of range that can work that can be a plug and play with your exact program. So we won't be in competition with you. We won't try and poach your clientele. We're really going to be an extra advocate where we have a whole compilation. We have curriculum that can literally plug into what you guys are offering to automatically expand your market to the women in your area. So we have credentialed instructors that are uniquely skilled in these skill sets to teach that kind of orientation level shooter. So I consider that even before beginner. These are women who would never walk in the door if there wasn't those friendly faces on the other side. And unfortunately, in some cases, those friendly faces have to look like mine. They have to be women, and a lot of times these guys recognize that. And so they'll reach out to a Girl and a Gun and say, how do I open a women's chapter here? And I'll say, do you have a female instructor? And they'll say, no, but there is a girl who works in the office, or we do have a girl on the counter. And that's a great first step. but encouraging women in their gun stores and their retail centers and their ranges to become RSOs and to become instructors is also very, very valuable. We really want our instructors to be women mentoring other women. A lot of times that will help them in their journey and keep them engaged for the long run. So he can learn about our program, learn about our credentials, learn about our requirements, and see if it's a good plug and play for him. He can also learn some testimonials from other ranges to see how they found success with our program, and know that we're not there to compete. We're literally there to help them expand their market with qualified instructors that can just walk in the door and offer this great package to expand their market.
Fantastic. Thank you for playing my little game along with me here and addressing these different avatars. But I hope that for somebody out there, watching or listening to this, that maybe you're in a similar situation or whatnot, that you get something from that and kind of get some ideas about what you might do next.
Everything is different. Like you said, from that new shooter to the woman whose husband is encouraging her, or to the gun store owner, a lot of times it just takes learning more about us. Maybe they've heard of other women's organizations or had different female instructors, and it's how it is when there's bad apples. And so I would just invite them to give us another chance. If they haven't seen us, we've been around 14 years. We have a very structured program, and I would love the opportunity just to meet with them. If it's her first time in a gun range, I'll have my team, we'll go with her. We'll make it a really great experience for her. If they can just give us a chance to learn about us and the opportunities we offer.
Yeah. And of course, you've mentioned, I believe, but folks can go to agirlandagun.org to learn more and to find all the resources that you have available there. Are there any other, whether it's websites or resources that you want to mention or point people to?
Really, everything is on our website, agirlandagun.org. You can see our events. You can see articles and videos. We have more than 1,000 articles and videos in our video library on every topic you can think of, from learning to competing to, higher level mindset discussions. We have a Girl in the Gun book club people can get involved with. We have our virtual events that are live streaming every week. And we have just a lot of things for people to plug into. I send an email every Tuesday to our members. So, there's just a lot of opportunities. It's only $50 a year to be a member of a Girl in the Gun. That's less than a latte a month to really be plugged into this community and to have that information kind of sent your way so that you can learn these skills and gain some confidence about it. But more importantly, that be part of a community that offers you a lot more opportunities.
Yeah, very good. Final thing, are there any companies or other organizations, sponsors even, that you'd like to make mention that have kind of supported you in your mission?
Oh gosh, I'm so lucky. We have the best sponsors. Of course, HK for tonight. HK is a great sponsor of a Girl in the Gun. Glock is an incredible sponsor. Mossberg, Walther is a major sponsor of ours. There's so many. I don't even want to start going down that rabbit hole because I'll forget to say a lot of them.
Forget something, yeah.
Bagpull and all of them. We're so lucky that Taurus, like a lot of those major brands are big supporters of a Girl in the Gun. Often they are, they support us at every event, and that's really fun. I always say I'm kind of the Oprah of the gun world, because like we get these firearm certificates and I'm just like, you win a gun, you win a gun, you win a gun. So every morning when we have our safety briefs, that's how I bribe the girls to come to safety brief, is you must be present. And we give away a lot of guns. And so I'm grateful for our supporters that support women shooters and give us the opportunity to have the events that we have.
That's awesome. About how many guns would you say you give away at say just the national conference as an example?
Usually at conference in about 4 days, we give away about 70.
So with like 700 some odd attendees, like
it's pretty good odds. Yeah. It's good odds. I think we have 3 to give away this weekend at our Clays Extravaganza. We have 2 to give away at our sniper school, 1 or 2 precision rifles to give away. And there's only 12 girls attending sniper school. It's a very small group because it's so specialized. So one of those 12 is going home with a new precision rifle. It's our sponsors are just incredible. They're incredibly generous and they love supporting women shooting.
That's awesome. Robyn, it's been a pleasure having you with me for this past hour to talk about these things and everything you got going on. Always appreciate your perspective, your positive attitude, and your leadership in this space with what you're doing to get all these wonderful women involved in the shooting sports and in self-defense. We wish you the best of success and continued growth, and hope that that you just continue to change the world.
Thank you. I miss seeing you at our events, and I hope that you'll come back to conference again in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to have a platform to talk to your followers about A Girl and a Gun, and hopefully they'll encourage the women in their lives to be a part of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Just real quick to wrap this up, today's sponsors, just as a reminder, were HK at hk-usa.com and Mountain Man Medical at mountainmanmedical.com. And again, one more shout out to Robyn and agirlandagun.org. And so with that, we will bid everyone a wonderful goodbye. Have a great week. Hope to see you again soon as well, Robyn. And until next time, everybody, a reminder to train right, train often, and train safe so you can fight hard, fight fast, and fight true. Take care.